Okay, welcome. I'd like to call this Finance Committee meeting to order. The first item we have is assignment for request for council action. We have several for the Finance Committee: 21068 budget amendments, 2169 2020 carry forward, 2170 cybersecurity liability insurance renewal, 2071 Mcdac grant police, 2172 expenditure over 15,000 Mason custom builders for the police, 2173 purchase of a 2021 F-150 truck and 2022 F-600 chassis, Montrose Ford for the Water Department. 2174 agreement with OHM Advisors for comprehensive plan consultant. 2175 memorandum of lease 406 South Broadway Pieceworks Inc. 2176 discussion regarding electric irrigation funds. 2177 agreement with Odot traffic signal maintenance. 2178 easements for Spring Grove Street Bridge replacement. 2179 create fund number 171 American Rescue Plan Act Fund. And finally, 2180, obtain appraisal to convert municipal court to community center. Next item we have is 2116, EdTrex Transfer Form Los Cantaritos LLC. Ms. Marshall?
Thank you, Mr. President. This request is a follow-up to our discussion at the Finance Committee meeting held on Monday, January 25th of 2021. Mark Myers, the attorney for the owners of the Los Cantaritos LLC located at 930 West Liberty Street, has identified a liquor permit that they are requesting to be transferred into the city of Medina. The seller is Bennett Enterprises LLC, and the permit number is 062046000020. Ohio Revised Code states that a permit can be transferred from one area to another for the purposes of an economic development project. Los Cantaritos has entered into a lease for the real estate at 930 West Liberty Street, which was formerly occupied by a number of restaurants. The space had been vacant for approximately 1 year prior to Los Cantaritos opening. Los Cantaritos desires to sell alcoholic beverages at its location. However, the quota for liquor permits allowing on-premise consumption in Medina is full. Therefore, Los Cantaritos must purchase a permit and request consent of the Medina city officials to trex in a liquor permit. Los Cantaritos will initially employ eight people. It will generate income tax for the city of Medina and provide a good family atmosphere with good food, and is an asset to this community. And from what I understand from folks in the community and some of our administration that have been there, the food is really good. So we are respectfully requesting council to allow the mayor to sign the attached Ohio Department of Commerce Division of Liquor Control Economic Development Trex transfer form, and we did ask for an emergency clause.
Discussion? I think we all understand this has been ongoing for a while, and I'm glad to see that they found a permit and are going to use a permit over there, so that's a good idea.
I will attest to their guacamole. It's quite delicious.
Move to approve with the emergency clause.
Second, including the emergency clause?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 21068 budget amendments. We have 21012, a police reimbursement. Is it Keith or Chief?
Go ahead.
Okay, yeah, I'll go ahead. The first one is for $750. It's a reimbursement for our CIT training, crisis intervention training, that two of our officers recently went through. The second one is a $100 donation we received.
Any questions?
Move to approve.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Next one we have is a police donation, 21010. Chief? You doing this one too?
That was the second one.
Oh, okay.
I covered both of them
Oh,
last thing.
you're too
Sorry.
efficient. Too efficient. Any questions?
Move to approve.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. 21069, this is the 2020 carry forward. Keith?
Thank you, Mr. President. As you referenced, this is the carry forward. These are funds that were appropriated in 2020 and were not spent. Not all of those funds has been requested, but these are the funds that have been requested. You have the whole packet. It's a lot, but any questions I can address.
Any questions?
Move to approve.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. 20-070 cybersecurity liability insurance renewals. Mayor?
Thank you, Mr. President. I apologize to the council that this is a little late getting to you. We had to sign a binder to take us from April 1st through April 13th. And the reason was they were trying to shop this. The cybersecurity for communities and businesses has increased dramatically. And our current provider provided us a quote. Some would not even provide a quote. And the quote that we received was a 91% increase from last year. So what was much lower is now $26,820. It was supposed to take effect on April 1st. That's why we did the binder to buy us a couple weeks. And we're respectfully asking for the emergency clause and to take it tonight to Finance and Council so that I can sign it in the morning to have it take effect on April 13th, tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions?
Move to approve with the emergency clause.
Second, including the emergency clause?
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. 2171 Mcdac grant for the police department. Chief Kinney?
Thank you, Mr. President. This is requesting permission to apply for and accept the Mcdac grant. That's Medina County Drug Advisory Committee. This is a program that funds our school resource officers.
Any questions? I know this says we're going to use this money. I know we talked earlier, I think in your committee, about the full-time third resource officer, but that hasn't been authorized yet. So I get it that the money could be used for that, but by approving the grant doesn't mean it's going to be used for that. Correct? I don't think we have it approved.
Well, we got to go through the budget process.
Right, okay. Any questions?
Move to approve.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. 2172, we got expenditure of $15,000 from Mason
Wait,
Custom
I'm sorry.
Builders, please.
Do we need the emergency clause?
I apologize. Yes, we need the emergency clause. The due date on that is May 3rd.
I'll amend my motion to include the emergency clause.
My second amendment will also include the emergency clause.
Anybody have any questions on the emergency clause? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. 2172, expenditure of $15,000 Mason Custom Builders for the police department. Chief Kinney.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is the general contractor who is completing the locker room remodels here in the police department for the girls' locker room and the men's locker room.
Any questions?
Move to approve.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. 2173, purchase of a 2021 F-150 and a 2022 chassis for the water department. Mr. Pacoli.
Thank you, Mr. President. So this is for the request for two vehicles, the first one being F600 4x2, which is a dump truck. It's a smaller dump truck. Currently, we have a 2006 one-ton dump, and it's unique how they operate the water department. We have a big tandem, larger dump truck, and then this smaller one-ton, a little bit beefier than a one-ton, runs the gravel and the fill and some smaller essentials. So it's worn, and the idea is to go a little beefier with an F600. That's the first request with a stainless steel bed so it doesn't rust out. The truck 29 that it'll replace has had repairs on it numerous times, so we're hoping stainless steel bed will last. Second purchase is a pickup truck, 4x4 pickup, F-150. It'll replace a 2008 truck. It has 100,000 miles on it.
And these were budgeted?
They're in the budget, yes.
Just double checking.
We'll be talking about it in May.
Mhm. Any questions?
Move to approve.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. 2174, agreement with OHM Advisors, Comprehensive Plan Consultant. Mr. Mendel.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is a request that, so we did an RFP process ending in March 10th of 2021. The RFP review team and city administration recommends the city council permit the mayor to accept and contract with OHM Advisors to manage the creation of a new comprehensive plan for the city of Medina. The draft agreement was attached when I attached the RCA. Law director hadn't looked at it, subsequently, and there has no issues with it, so we can remove the sentence about subject to law director review as we go through ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you. So the next step would be putting together a committee to go over the comprehensive plan. I think we talked about that with Mr. Lamb, structuring the committee. I think you already had the committee structured to,
Yes, so
Select.
a steering committee that has been worked through. I mean, we still want to get through the legislative process to actually contract with them, but as we're working through the next step, the substantive step would be get them hired, they come in and we start the process, and that would be with a steering committee as kind of the interim between kind of general public steering committee, and then as we go through, then it would go to planning commission and ultimately to city council for adoption.
and my understanding was when we did this previously, a little over 10 years ago, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it was around $65,000, so the cost went up a little bit. Am I correct, or more than anybody remember?
I believe with McKenna and Associates in '06, '07, I think it was actually closer to 75.
Was it 75? Okay.
The RFPs, we received 11 RFPs, and it ranged from 57 to 149,000.
Hmm.
So, this one is a contract not to exceed like $81,000, but we're put 85,000 in there in a PO just so that we're set on being able to pay for the contract. Thank you.
Any questions?
Move to approve.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. 2175, memorandum of lease of 406 South Broadway, Peaceworks, Inc. Mr. Worley?
I can take this.
Oh, is this Mayor? Okay.
So they contacted me before I went to Florida, and Justin was gracious enough to introduce this. But David Clarity, who works for Intervention for Peace, they are in their, about midway through their second 5-year term, and they would like to extend it for another 2 5-year terms to operate it under the same conditions, not change anything. They're very satisfied with how things are going. I told them from my discussions with the council all along, I thought we were as well. If there are any things that need to be changed, we have time to do that. But at the very last minute, like Friday, David found out that he had to run down to Florida for a family matter and wasn't able to attend tonight. He will be here for the council meeting, but if there's any issues, I can address those with him.
Mr. Mayor, there is a representative for David.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't recognize you there with the mask. So this is Mandy Shuck, representing Mr. Clarity. So if there's any questions, either of myself, or Mandy, we'd be happy to help you.
Any questions? Mandy, do you have anything to add? No question?
Thank you for coming.
Okay, well, thank you.
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. 2176, discuss electric aggregation funds. Mayor, is this you or is this Nino? Who is this, Keith? I could do it. We get a lot more money. Just kidding.
No, we'd rather you don't.
That's what I was going to say.
So this year let me catch up with you here. This year we received $22,177, but of that, $1,337 were needed to cover the remainder of the Southtown Christmas lights that we committed to last year. So that leaves $20,780 still available. I'd like Nino to weigh in. I know there's been some discussions with Bobby Duker about replacing some of the very first lights we put up. We don't believe we have enough money nor time of Bobby's to try to do it all in 1 year. So what we'd like to do is block by block, begin where we started and get those replaced because they're beginning to dry rot and fail and so forth. So, Nino?
Well spoken, Mayor. I mean, you covered it. So rather, I think, John, we talked about it briefly. Instead of doing the entire layout, we would work maybe on the west side of the square or the south side of the square and take those down and then redo the string lighting, the verticals, the horizontals, the whole 9 yards. I mean, we talked about possibly changing out the C9 sockets without the bulbs, but then some of the bulbs we're finding have water in them. It happens over moisture and they start collecting. That's why they're dimming. So to have it uniform, we would just pick a side or pick an area and start pecking away at it.
Now, how many years has this been? It's been 9?
9,
9 years?
9 long years.
That's 9 great years. I think that's pretty good that they lasted that long throughout the sun. I think we were expecting only like 5 years. So we doubled that, which is a definite savings for the city. But I think, again, the lights provide an atmosphere that attracts a lot of people to the square over the holidays, and I think it's well worth it. So, any questions?
I have one question.
Yes. Mr. Lamb?
I agree with the step-by-step approach to, that makes a lot of sense. And just my question, though, is we have done this for 9 years, and we are probably certain to continue to do it, on into the future. Have we ever considered putting up permanent lights? I mean, like you do it, for example, like Disney World, where the lighting, they're not strings of lights. I mean, they're permanently fixed lights.
I guess the honest answer is I'm not familiar with that setup. I've not been there, but I guess we could look into it. We've not had that discussion.
Okay,
Yeah,
I
I'm
just
not
wondered
sure
if the
what that
cost,
is.
if
I
the
don't know.
cost, if we built in the funding to do just a little bit each year where the lights weren't removable lights, they were just built in, if that maybe would eventually pay for itself, it would pay for itself over the years.
I would say it warrants a discussion or at least looking into then.
Yeah, because I've never heard of that, but maybe, I
Yeah.
don't know what they look like.
It would still require maintenance, though, wouldn't it?
It would, but the strings then aren't, they're not outside string, it's
Right,
not
okay.
string lights, it would be contained.
Right,
The
the wire would
the
be
wires
conduit.
wouldn't be outside.
I think some of the issue there has to do with the fact that many of these properties aren't owned by us. Disney World, they own the property and they can do what they want, so we'd have to have easements or some kind of, be more complicated for sure.
Well, we like complicated, don't we? I
That's
mean,
what
that's
we
why
do.
we've got you, Greg.
Okay, thanks. Any other questions?
Now, Mr. President,
Mrs. Hazeltine?
thank you. I was just wondering, would it make a difference? Are there bulbs right now regular or LED?
LED.
Okay. My question is now relevant.
Yeah, it's kind of amazing that we talked about it. What is it, like a 100-watt bulb for the whole square? That's kind of what the electric we're using, which is amazing. So that's good. Okay. So I guess that's just an update. We really don't have to do anything right now.
Correct.
2177 ODOT Traffic Signal Maintenance Agreement. Is this Mr. Patton?
Yes.
Mr. Patton.
This is a request from ODOT or the city and ODOT to enter into an agreement for the city to maintain and operate the ODOT-owned traffic signal at 42 and Grande, which is the street by Home Depot there. We've been maintaining that for 3 years. We had a previous agreement that expired. We believe the cost, maintenance fee of $1,300 a year is fair and recommend that we agree to this. I would note our previous agreement, we also maintained State Route 18 and Foot Road traffic signal. ODOT has determined that they are going to take that one back, so that's be no longer under our umbrella.
Well, that's good news.
Right.
Any other questions?
Move to approve.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. 2178 easements for Spring Grove Street Bridge Replacement. Mr. Patton.
Thank you. This summer, one of our bridge replacement projects on Spring Grove, we need to get 3 easements from adjacent landowners. Spring Grove Street only has 33-foot wide right-of-way. The bridge occupies more than that now, so the city should have had easements many years ago. But these will pay for 2 of those easements.
Any questions?
Move to approve.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. 21079 Create Fund Number 171 American Rescue Plan Act Fund. Mr. Durham.
Thank you. This American Rescue Plan, I'm going to kind of tell you a little bit about it, and then I'll entertain any questions, but I do want to tell you in advance, Congress passed the law But the Treasury Department has not yet issued all the guidelines and clarifications on what that law means. So right now, everybody is waiting to hear from Treasury on what exactly we're going to be able to do with this. The estimate that we received is that the city of Medina is going to receive $5,089,095.15 in American Rescue Plan Act funding. That'll be in two their tranches. One we should get within a few months is going to be half of that. And then the other will be the other half, which should be next year. Those are still estimates, so, I mean, we can't bank on that exact amount of money, but it seems like it hasn't changed much, so we think it's going to be about in that neighborhood. The big news here on this grant is this is very unusual. They're authorizing a thing called revenue replacement. Federal grants are usually to pay for a thing that you're buying or a person you're hiring. It's very unusual to see a federal grant for replacing revenue that you lost. What we don't know within that revenue replacement is exactly the mechanics of that, and it's hard to guess since this is not something the federal government normally does, so we can't just look at past grants and say, okay, well, it should be like that. The reason these questions make a difference, I've talked to the few departments, and just to give you a couple quick examples, the rec center was the fund that lost the most revenue, obviously, because they're closed down for a long time. It's about $1 million, but I say about because it depends on how you calculate it. If they have us do it net by fund, it's $932,000. If they do it gross line by line, it's $1,076,000. So it's about $144,000 difference depending on how the feds decide we're going to handle that, and we don't know yet. They haven't issued that guidance. Another fund where this is an issue is the street fund. Most of the revenues in that are from gas tax, and the gas tax was increased by the state for 2020, but we didn't get what we expected because people drove less during the pandemic. So gas tax revenue in 2019 was about $900,000. We were told by the state that our estimate for 2020 would be about 1.4, and we ended up at 1.2. So again, it depends on what numbers the feds use as the baseline. If you're just using 19 as the baseline, well, we're up. We don't have any revenue loss to replace. If you use that higher estimate that we would have received but for the pandemic, then we're down about $200,000. And then again, you have the issue of the whole fund versus line by line, because the whole fund in total was up because of that gas tax increase, but we lost about $100,000, mostly in motor vehicle license tax, and that was down because they had the extension where you didn't need to renew. So if you go line by line, well, if you go net by fund, there's no loss. If you go line by line, there's about $100,000 loss. And if you go line by line and make an adjustment for what the gas tax would have been, there's about a $300,000 loss. So like I said, these sounds like kind of semantic, issues, but it adds up to a lot of money. We'll know that as it goes along. Talked with Walter and Haverfield. They advised us, as you know, on the CARES fund, they're going to be ready to do that for this as well, which we're going to need, I believe. We're going to need this fund, and the state auditor sent out this bulletin. Ordinarily, when you create a fund, you have to ask the state auditor's permission. This bulletin, long and short, says you don't need to ask, go ahead and do it. They put that out because basically every city in the state's going to need this fund, so rather than having all of us request it, they're just telling us all that we can do it.
Any questions? I think it's very beneficial for the city, of course, to receive these additional funds beyond that what we received in the first round last year that assisted us in some of our capital projects that we needed to get done related to COVID. So as we know that, some of the revenues are down just because everything else was down as far as the economic activity. And, this could definitely help us. As you recall, we reduced all the budgets by 10%. And what this sounds like with the CARES Act money we received, and now with this American Rescue Plan Act funds, really the 10% is gone with the money that we received from the federal government. So that's a good thing. And it may even be a little bit more that would help us out beyond that, which is even more beneficial for additional operational needs that we will have in the future. So that's a good thing. Is there any other questions? Mr. Rose?
I do have a comment. I don't know if this would be for Keith or for Greg Huber, but when we do get the paperwork, let's scrub the words real closely. Make sure that we're not signing something away that we don't want to sign away when we take these dollars. Because, kind of like the BABS bonds that we had, All right, in that vein there, that there isn't a time bomb out there waiting for us?
Yeah,
And,
I mean, that's what we'll be asking Walter Naverfield for, because, I mean, we haven't, and if you remember with the BABS funds, the feds ended up not reimbursing that, and that ended up being a really good thing for us, because we were able to refinance and get a lower rate. But, yeah, I mean, we haven't seen any of that yet. I mean,
Yeah.
we're waiting, but we haven't had to apply for this, it's just been here. You know, it's
Yeah,
a
but
different
okay, but
thing
if
than the
you-
normal grant, so.
Yeah, but if you take it and you cash the check,
Sure, and we'll have, you know, the lawyers look at that.
all right, yeah, please, please. I don't want to sign up for something we don't want. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, motion. We got to create the fund.
Move to approve.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. 21080, discuss obtaining appraisal to determine the cost to convert the Muni Court building into a community center. This came from Mr. Land.
Thank you. First of all, let me say that the most important issue is the passage of issue 1, which is directly related to this idea. That's key to our ability to move the court to the 69 building, save those funds, save the funds long-term, and then make a determination on what to do with the Muni Court building, which is not my decision to make, but it's our decision to make. And I think there's a lot of good, you know, I'm sure there's a lot of good ideas. I think we've discussed things with the county. We have a great working relationship with the county currently. There are some suggestions of working with the county on the Muni Court, which may well make a lot of sense and be the way we go. But I just felt it was necessary or a good idea to, you know, that we have some other things to consider as we get down the road. Once we pass issue 1, which allows us to move the Muni Court to a suitable facility where victims are safe, law enforcement is safe, we're saving money, prisoners are properly handled. Once we have the ability to do that, then we can make this decision because we'll have an open building. And if it is in conjunction with the county to bring more folks into the city, which is always a good idea, operations that may be out in the township, help to feed the business downtown, it's a great idea, and we may go, you know, we may go that way after we have these discussions. If it's for a community center, I think that's a, you know, that's a good thing for us to discuss. I know for a fact that we were discussing a community center in the 1980s. The funding and the commitment just never came through. So whether it would go in the Muni Court or maybe be at a different location or be built somewhere, I still think that that's a worthy idea. But I think we have, you know, and I don't want to imply that I'm not open to other suggestions and possibilities because I've heard a lot of good ones. And we will, you know, in my opinion, we'll discuss all those things when we get to it. You know, once we do the most important thing, and that is to work to pass issue 1.
Okay. Any questions or comments to that? Mrs. Hazeltine?
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd just like to stress the importance of having a community center in our community. The location that Mr. Lamb has suggested would be ideal with the passage of issue 1. Ward 1 is the only ward in our city that does not have a school located in it. So all of the children in Ward 1 do go to a school outside of their ward. We do have the Career Center, but that is they're not part of Medina City Schools. So right now, what a lot of children in my ward do is they go to the library right after school. So those of you that are familiar maybe with the Sandwich Brigade program, a lot of people volunteer for it. My kids and I do it. People donate peanut butter and jelly sandwiches because those kids go there right after school, and it's basically a babysitting center. And the librarians are able to feed the children, and sometimes that's their food. That's their meal for the rest of the day after school. So if we had a community center, it would act as a central place where people in our community could gather and take some of the responsibility of that off of the librarians, because they are in charge of the library and not the children. The community center would be staffed with someone who was trained to do things like that. But also, we don't have a senior center in Medina City either. And that is an ideal location. We could also use it to do that. A lot of people utilize the one in Wadsworth. I think that there would definitely be a need for a gathering place. If the children are going to use it after school, the adults can use it during the day. Some of the other things, the reasons that we need it, is that there are a lot of resources that children need that just aren't in a centralized location. They're on the other side of town. There are things that they need. Their parents don't have vehicles. Of course, the children don't have vehicles unless they want to ride their bicycles. So for me, the importance of the location and having a community center is very important to the people of Ward 1 that would be utilizing that center. So I would, as long as we pass issue 1, I would be in strong support of converting the Muni Court into a community center because I feel like it's a much needed facility.
Thank you. Any other questions? Mr. Simpson?
And I agree with what Councilman Hazeltine and Mr. Lamb said. I use the caveat, though, that the county has been working with us, for the last several years, to trying to accommodate some of our needs with the Muni Court. And preliminary discussions, and this was public, because at that time, we had no idea what we would do. And that we're talking now when we were talking about moving into the new addition to the county courthouse, that the county would be very interested in utilizing the current Muni Court for some of their services. I think that for me, that would have to be, first and foremost, if and when issue 1 does pass. But if the county wasn't interested in it, I'd be very interested in what both of you have decided. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Mr. Shields?
Yes, I just want to make a comment. I want to make sure we don't forget, though, there are some great after-school programs. Mrs. Hazeltine mentioned the library. We have the Medina County Police Activities League that runs out of Garfield every day 2 times a week for 3rd through 5th graders. We have Cups Cafe. We have the Salvation Army. We have a lot of great programs that are going on for kids every day after school. So if we do something, I just don't want to exclude those partners. I'd like them to be partners in this and talk about how we could work together and not have duplicated services then.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Yeah, I think you're right, and that's what we really do best. And that's why I said I think that we'll once we pass issue 1, then we'll have the opportunity to discuss all these issues. And the first issue that's brought up may just maybe go off the table, and we may go with something different. But it's important to recognize everything that plays into the issues that would bring up the idea of a community center in the first place. Sure. But as Denny said, we also have had this great working relationship with the county, and we are hopeful, that after the vote, that we'll be able to continue that working relationship, and if that may entail, their use of the building, which would also benefit the community because it would again bring folks in here, to come and shop downtown, eat lunch downtown, as we've discussed before. But, as Councilman Shields pointed out, there are a lot of things to take into consideration, but that's the one thing I think that we do best, is we just all work together, and we will come up with the best, the best idea and the best solution to benefit the community.
Yep, thank you. We have a lot of work to do before the election, and I think that's top priority, as we all mentioned, so.
Mr. Coyne, if I could.
Yes, Mayor Hamel?
So I just wanted to mention, with the Office of Older Adults, at least in my time in the mayor's office, it's been an intentional, again, collaboration with the county to support the Office of Older Adults up at Northland Drive there, because if we open another one, be it in Ward 1 or anywhere in the city for that matter, I think what we're taking is the same pool and kind of dividing them or pulling them. So Brunswick has their own, because Medina is a distance. Wadsworth has their own because Medina is a distance. But I've always thought that it makes more sense, and the council supported, until they got the human services levy passed, supporting them as well financially. So I'd just like to offer that. And then if I could offer just one other comment on the previous one that we did, the American Rescue Plan Act.
Sure. So
I was sent a paper, Barbara DeZer actually came across it and sent it to me, and just something, we've got 7 great minds up there, but Eric's not here today. just philosophically to think about what this paper addresses is who is going to do the most and get the best bang for the dollar of these monies coming down. And what it talks about is the difference of spending the money once and being done versus investing the money into things that could then develop over the years and bring much more to the city than simply expending the dollars. So if it's okay with everybody, I will scan that, send it to all the council members, just to kind of ponder those two different schools of thought. We could all make a list of things to use up, the $2.5 million, but if there are other things that we could do that in the next 5 years or 10 years, people look back and said, look at the difference that this 2.5 million made versus just paying bills or making up revenue that was lost. So if it's okay, I'll share that with everybody.
Yes, that'd be fine, thanks. Any other questions? Mrs. Hazeltine?
Not a question, but just a comment. I just wanted to clarify that I was in no way trying to take away from the work that Laura does at the Office for Older Adults or McPal or any of those organizations, because they do a fabulous job. The collaboration with the schools for Guides with Guidestone has been amazing. Both my children were lucky enough to be one of Garfield's greatest. They went to Garfield. So I have had the opportunity firsthand. My son was in McPal. My daughter participated in a lot of the Ohio Guidestone programs. So I guess what I'm trying to say is exactly what Councilman Shields said. I think we need to partner and collaborate. I think it would be nice to have a central hub where all of those things could come together. I don't think it would be, when you talk about duplication of services and you look at the city and you look at the county, that's something that responds to a need in the community. If you need more than one place and you need more than one building for it. We have 2 recovery centers right now in Medina County. We have multiple services for the differently abled. We have, Peaceworks, SHC, creative housing. So there is, in nonprofit, just in general, there is a lot of duplication of services, and I don't necessarily see that as a bad thing, as long as the need is there.
Okay. Any other questions, follow-up comments? All right, hearing none, the finance meeting is adjourned, and we will wait for council at 7:30. Thank you.
I'm gonna go home.
Should have brought a snack.
No,